I am proud to introduce our commencement speaker, William D. Unger. Mr. Unger is a partner emeritus of the Mayfield Fund, one of the premier venture capital funds in the world. Mr. Unger joined Mayfield in 1983 and has been a general partner of several venture capital funds affiliated with the Mayfield Fund since 1987. His many successful investments at Mayfield include SanDisk, which is currently valued at over $14 billion, Silicon Architects, acquired by Synopsys, Calico Commerce, acquired by PeopleSoft and Oracle, Newport Communications, acquired by Broadcom, Simplex Solutions, acquired by Cadence, Nchip, acquired by Flectronics, and many, many more. Mr. Unger earned a bachelor's degree in education from UIC in 1971. He is a member of the Dean's Advisory Board here in our engineering college, and he has also served for 10 years as a member of the advisory board to the Dean of Engineering at the University of California at Berkeley. He is past vice chair of the Anita Borg Institute for Women in Technology. He has served as a member and advocate for environmental entrepreneurs, and he has advised the Global Philanthropy Forum and the Entrepreneurs Foundation. He currently serves as board chair of Samasource and sits on the board of directors of CARE USA. Since 2008, Mr. Unger has funded the Unger Scholars Program, which provides $5,000 scholarships to women engineering students at UIC. The program aims to encourage young women to pursue an engineering education and to create a network of talented women students and alumni who support each other's academic and professional development. To date, the program has awarded over 60 scholarships. Our college is very fortunate to have Mr. Unger as an advisor and supporter. He is a wonderful human being, and I am also very privileged to have Bill as a close personal friend as well. Would you please join me in welcoming Mr. Bill Unger?
I just wanted to take a minute to tell you what happens in there, because I'd never been there before, but the primary topic of conversation, and you all probably knew this, is that they were talking about you and the tenacity and persistence it takes to become a graduate of this college. So you do have an impact on the people who've been bringing you along. My career started in 1971 when I graduated with that degree in education from this campus. I taught for 1 year. It's the hardest job I ever had. And if any of you ever consider having a second career, I'd encourage you to think about teaching. I loved it. I just didn't think I was very good at it. I went to graduate school, took a couple of classes, and then headed for California. I worked for 3 years there in community mental health, working with teenagers who were in trouble. And Governor Ronald Reagan ended that career by terminating state reimbursement for those programs. So what was I going to do? I got a haircut because I thought maybe I'll go to business. I sent home, had my mom send out a suit, and I walked into an employment agency hoping they would find me a job. They only worked with accountants and engineers, but to my surprise, they offered me a position to find engineers for their client companies, hot companies in Silicon Valley at the time, companies like Memorex, Diablo Systems, Hewlett-Packard, making very hot products, daisy wheel printers, digital watches and calculators, tape memory backup systems, and mini computers. It was basically an entry-level sales job, and I knew if I was going to be successful, I would have a lot to learn. So it turned out that the engineers were my teachers, and I fell in love with them. They told me about how much they loved their work, how passionate they were about having hard problems to solve and turning those into new products for people. So I fell hard, and I actually have been falling in love with them over and over again, therefore with all of you also, over the last 30 years. I left the agency and I started my own executive search firm, primarily working with small technology companies no one had ever heard of, funded by something called venture capital. 7 years later, one of my clients recruited me to join them so that I could help their portfolio companies build better teams. I became a venture capitalist, something I could not have imagined when I graduated. And for all that time, I've just had fun, which is the Best thing you can have when you're working. These days, I spend a lot of time working with nonprofits. I always felt that I had won the birth lottery. I was born in the USA, I had supportive parents, I was healthy, I'm a white male, and I'm smart enough. So I always had a drive to give back because of that feeling, even when I only had a few dollars. As I did better in my career, I gave back more, both time and money. I'm particularly interested in how do we get the rest of the world, people, out of poverty. The developing world has over 5 billion people who don't live the way that we do. And to me, I think the way that you do that is by creating jobs, good jobs. Winning the birth lottery should not be a prerequisite for access to opportunity. People everywhere need a living wage. They want to eat well, they want clean water, they want to be healthy, they want to send their kids to school, and they want to live in a safe place. Creating that kind of a world is really a hard problem to solve. But spending time with engineers has convinced me that we can solve the hard problems. Engineers have a unique skill set, that of analysis, testing assumptions, and then building real things out of concepts. You will all see many opportunities that you can participate in to make the world a better place for you and for your families. And when those opportunities to present themselves to you, I'd encourage you to just say yes. Today, we're in the earliest phase of a change probably as significant as anything since the Industrial Revolution. We are entering the age of the power of the individual and of that individual as a member of a very large, almost infinite group. One person today can be almost anywhere, have an idea, take out a mobile device, design a solution for that idea, and if it's a physical solution, can send that to an inexpensive printer that prints a 3D object. It could be a tool or a machine, it could even be a tooth. If you need more help to design that, you can crowdsource through a website like Kaggle or Elance looking for the right technology assistance. Today, I see software companies, game companies, medical device companies, sometimes staffed by only one person. And one person can take a political stand or start a movement by using a website like Avaz or Change.org. One person can leave an opinion about a product or service experience on Yelp. One person can make a loan to somebody thousands of miles away they've never met and help them start a business by using Kiva. Or you can spend a couple of your dollars and enable life-changing surgery for a burn victim or fistula sufferer on Samahope. What one person does can be immediately known and have an impact on maybe one other person or maybe millions of other people. It starts with one person with an idea, and oftentimes somebody has to breathe life into that idea, and that idea or that person would be you. We need you to do those solutions. We need you to participate when the solutions are built. We need you to be the leaders in the world that you're helping to create. You can and will have influence far beyond your desktop. Though it is the age of the power of the individual, most of us are part of a group. In fact, most of us are part of many groups, and those groups change all the time. As you move through your career, you might occasionally get a feeling that you're the smartest person in the room. If you ever get that feeling, run. Do not walk out of that room. I like to be in rooms where there's people from many different cultures with many different experiences. I look at it as a way of spending time with people who make my world bigger. And it's that kind of diversity that allows us to think outside the box of our own experiences. One caution, though, about groups: they do have a tendency to move towards consensus. That is not the goal. The goal is finding the best idea. Where you work matters. Culture matters. I have a close friend who's a PhD EE, and I asked her what she would hope I would say today. These are her words. At the end, it's all about whether or not we have helped people. Were we honest when it was really hard? Did we act with integrity? Did we empathize? This is what allows us to feel good when we go home at night. Integrity deserves another mention. I was once giving a guest lecture at a MBA candidate class at Berkeley, and it was about how to hire a CEO. And I had a question from somebody there, and the question was, what if you have a CEO candidate who really knows the market, really knows the products, has a great set of contacts, really could be the perfect candidate, has everything you want, but they just have a small integrity problem? What would you answer? Mine was, what is a small integrity problem? How do I go to my customers, to my vendors, to my shareholders or my employees and say, we've just brought on a new CEO, he just has a small integrity problem, but don't worry. You know, you're being hired because you're needed. They're betting on you. So do something great for yourself. Find yourself a mentor, someone who can help orient you to the new company that you're joining, someone who can be a sounding board, somebody who can offer you perspectives. The key is to find a voice you can really hear. It may be, for example, that the talk that I'm giving isn't having an impact on you, and that's fine. Find someone whose voice you can hear, someone that's going to stimulate you and allow you to go forward with a little bit more confidence and with a little bit more knowledge than you had yesterday. I never worked in a big company. I didn't go to business school, so I made mentors out of the people that I did business with. People are almost always ready to give you their opinions. You just have to figure out who to ask. And sometimes you learn without asking. I was once doing a search for a company, and one of the managers was giving me a really hard time. I talked to his boss about it, and his boss said, well, Bill, what would you like me to do? And I didn't have an answer. I was unprepared. I learned that day not to go to somebody with a problem unless I have a proposal to go along with it. I was mentored that day. I once was moderating a symposium of chief technical officers, and a woman raised her hand after the Intel chief technical officer had said that Intel rewards merit. And she said, I have worked at Intel for 8 years. I am stronger technically than almost anyone here that I've met, and yet I am consistently passed over for promotions and for bonuses. And he asked her, well, have you talked to your management about this? And she said, I shouldn't have to do that. My work should speak for itself. And his response was, maybe it should, but it isn't. You are going to have to speak up. I should mention, by the way, that Intel just won an award for being the top company in the country for women to work at. So I want to leave you with that. Why should you speak up? 4 times more men on their initial salary negotiation will negotiate that salary than the number of women who will negotiate that salary. That's going to translate into a first-year differential of 4 to 5% less salary for those women. Over the next couple of years, that gap can grow to 10%, and that can mean $200,000 to $400,000 less over a career for a woman engineer with the same capacity doing the same work as a man. This is a really hard problem, and there's a very meaningful return. Learn to tell your story. Managing your career is your responsibility. Some people say that engineers are introverts and don't like to speak up. And if you're not naturally outgoing, it might be a problem. But practice telling your story. Practice talking about your ideas. Make it easy for other people to know you. It's like branding yourself. There used to be an adage of know thyself. I think the 21st century adage is be sure others know you. Give yourself a voice. The opportunity is very big, and you're just getting started. One thing for sure you will encounter in your career is failure. Suppose you're at a party. You might hear this kind of a conversation. Hey, Tony, how are you doing? I just lost my job yesterday. There's an East Coast response. Oh my God, you lost your job. What are you going to do? And then there's the West Coast response. So what are you going to do next? Where I come from, failure is not considered to be a barrier to opportunity. People aren't concerned about your failures. People are concerned about what you plan on doing. Thomas Watson was the founder and CEO of IBM, served there, I think, 50 years as CEO. And here's what he had to say about failure. Would you like me to give you a formula for success? It's quite simple, really. Double your rate of failure. You're thinking of failure as the enemy of success, but that's not it at all. You can be discouraged by failure, or you can learn from it. So go out and make mistakes. Make all you can, because that's where you'll find success on the other side. What else matters? Passion. Find something you're passionate about and commit to it. In the late 1980s, I met CEO Eli Harari of SanDisk. He told us the story of how his innovative new memory technology was going to change the face of electronics by being able to retain information even when power was off, which was quite an innovation at the time. He said it's a very big opportunity. We listened to him, we believed him, and we invested in him. Once we made that investment, every time I saw Eli was pretty much the same thing. We could be on the street, in a restaurant, at a conference, it didn't matter. He'd see you and he'd say, "Oh, Bill, I have to show you something." And he'd reach into his pocket and he'd pull out cameras and watches and cell phones and all kinds of electronic devices. And he'd say, "I've just been visiting Canon or Sony or Kodak or Panasonic," or whoever he'd been talking to. And he'd say, "They can use our solution in their product, and look what it can do." And I would see, this was in the late 80s, early 90s, I'd see a cell phone that could retain thousands of images, that could take pictures, or a camera that could take movies, high-quality movies, things that had never been seen before. And he would say, "The opportunity is so big, it's very exciting, but we have a lot of work to do, and we're just getting started." I heard that from him before they ever shipped a product. I heard that when they were a $20 million company, when they were a $100 million company, and when they passed $4 billion in sales. It was always the same thing. "Oh, Bill, let me show you something." And he'd reach into his pocket and pull out a device, and I would get a demo. And he would say, "The opportunity is really big. It's so exciting, but we have a lot of work to do, and we're just getting started." I think you've heard enough from me. Now I'd like to hear from you about what you're going to do. Thank you.